we start sitting down. But you see it, and I think now this is the first, at least Seneca election that we've had where people are starting to recognize and talk that way. So I encourage that way, because even like the rates, you know, things are going on. You have Dickey and these guys from ATF and agencies, and people are making their pleas to him. That's not our diplomacy. That's not our diplomacy.
And it should be over his head.
Yes.
You know, that's above his pay grade to be you know, trying to negotiate any kind of terms on our territory.
Sure.
And, you know, and I think the raids do give a symbol of just how aggressive the federal government has been on our territories, and not just here in Cattaraugus, but in Tonawanda and other places. You know, and I've said this before, we've never seen this level of federal aggression on our territories, at least not in our lifetime. We've had knockdown dragouts with the state, but we've never had the federal government trying to do so much.
I want to say something, and I believe it's related. I could be wrong. Is that, like you said earlier, I've never seen as much institutionalization in the Seneca Nation before, where we're going back to the state and the federal government and agencies and saying, look, leave us alone, because we parroted your system. And that's the thing I think that a lot of people are, we're starting to see it as a weakness. Some of us have seen it from a weakness from the beginning, but now more and more people are starting to wake up to it and saying all we are is kind of bringing their system that fails for them time and time and time again. And we try to parrot it.
No, and I know that we've had this this conversation a number of times about when we speak of these things and we offer that there may be that somehow we've got to take a step back, and maybe we've got to consider a little bit more of who we are as Haudenosaunee, as Seneca, Onondaga, Gunyakahaga. Oftentimes what we get, and Matt, you get the same thing back to you, is that, well, you guys are a little bit idealistic. You're not really understanding the complexities of dealing with the federal government. You're not really understanding just what and I'm sorry, but I understand the complexities. In fact, I may understand them a little bit more better than some of the rest of you guys in the room. I've been at various levels of the federal government.
I think it's important to realize that there's two very important aspects. One of them is to have the Seneca Nation, what's referred to as the Seneca Nation government, allow the people to have an input into our people, what we're going to be doing. But the other aspect is that the people have to participate in order to be able to have a say in the government.
There's a responsibility.
Yes.
Well, it's not that people be allowed. The fact is that the people have to start asserting their sovereignty.
Yes.
They're the sovereign here, not the Seneca Nation. Seneca Nation is just a corporation.
Right.
And so it's the people, and the people in the land go together, and the people have to start asserting their sovereignty and not be holding their hands behind their back and saying, Mr. President, can I,
may I,
you know, may I, you know, that's nonsense. The thing is that the people have to start taking control. And I mean, earlier I was listening to what John was having to say about how they come in invading our territories. The thing is that our people have been involved in the tobacco trade now for over 30 years. And
we can go a lot farther back than that if we want to talk before cigarettes. Sure. Yeah,
well, we'll talk about cigarettes and that. But the thing is that under their system and how they've had to deal with our people, even they know that this would not be categorized as a violent crime. And but yet they come in with masks on, with machine guns, dressed in black, coming into people's houses first thing in the morning, like they were making a big drug raid, or they were coming in after
saving somebody's life or something.
Maybe they were after some serial killers. You know, I mean, they're just pushing to criminalize our people, and yet there is nothing criminal about what our people are doing. This has been our right before they ever landed here, whether they're Vikings or Columbus. I don't care. Our people, we were doing this all this time. Now, why we as a people don't have the right according to their laws? And that, you know, there was just a case that's on Monday up in Toronto. There was Mohawks who took a case before the higher courts up there, and they were suing because the royal proclamation between Great Britain and our people was not being respected. And the judge himself admitted that that this royal proclamation, it is the supreme law, because it's a two roll, and that the Queen or the Crown had agreed that they would always honor and recognize and respect the two roll, and this royal proclamation that they passed, there's only one other royal proclamation, and that's with Israel, and yet they're honoring the proclamation with Israel, but yet our arrangement and agreement and the proclamation comes way before Israel's, but yet they're honoring that one, and the judge says, yes, you're right in what you're saying, but we're not going to recognize it. And don't try to appeal this case. So the Mohawk.
Well, so they said they were right, but they're still not going to recognize it.
They said they're still not going to honor it. They're not going to honor it.
They recognize it, but they're not going to honor it.
That's right. And so Tahuge, who was the one who brought it before him, he says, remember and be careful about the decision you make, because you could be committing treason. Because the judge and everybody else under the Crown is supposedly representing the Queen. And so I advise the people, go after every one of these people and lodge a complaint with the Crown. And don't charge the Crown, because it's not the Queen that's doing it, but her agents.
Right.
And go after her agents, because they're the ones in violation. But remember that the United States has that very same agreement, that they accepted the two roll. And their symbol is that gold braid that they wear on their uniforms and on their flags and so on. And if they didn't recognize and recognize this, then why is that gold braid and that still on their uniforms and on their flag?
Well, one of the things
those are the symbols.
One of the things that I keep, I guess I've got a renewed sense of its value is the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, and the reason I bring this up is because since most of this stuff that they is clear within their own laws, they can't hide from it when it comes to international law. And the point is, yeah, this UN Declaration does not really have the force of law necessarily yet, but it does. But we can give it force. And every time we show the flaws in their adjudication of a case, or when they try to pass a law and they try to shove it down our throats, we can point to the various articles. And this is something we need to start giving this document more force until such a time that we do cite enough examples that we force the international community to say, look, we signed this declaration. What are we going to do about it? And I think we've got to do that.
But the thing is that there was no need for the United Nations to get together and to create a whole new law. The fact of the matter is that they should have just respected the existing ones.
Well, and there's no question about that. But the fact that again, enough people said, look, specifically, indigenous people are still being railroaded. The fact that it even needed that it kind of shows you how poorly the rest of the international community has accepted us as people by the same definition as everybody else.
Back in the 1940s, they passed a declaration that they would not allow any longer for people, children especially, to be starving around the world. But yet, since they passed that declaration, it's even worse than at the time they passed.
Yeah, but the rich people have gotten a lot wealthier.
Oh yeah, of course.
All right, we got to take a break. we're going every one of our marks here. But anyway, again, got a full studio here. I've got Ross, Ed, Matt, and Paul, and this is John Kane. This is Let's Talk Native. We'll be right back. All right, thanks for coming back again. I got a full studio here. One of the areas that we were almost getting to was we talked about how aggressive the federal government has been during this administration. And when we say this administration, I'm not sure whether I should call it the Barack Obama administration or the Rob Porter administration, because there are certain policies that Rob brought to bear even before he was the president of Seneca Nation, as a policy advisor, as a legal counsel. And again, I hate to give Rob credit or blame, but the reality is there are certain things, and again, I wrote about this on my Facebook page about these well-educated guys, and Ross, you've talked about these guys who get an education,